The stream is live. We're live now.
Yay.
I don't want to try and look on the page because I don't think it'll mess up everything.
Ask him if he can hear
Look
it.
on my page
Ask
because
him if he can hear the
it'll
TV.
mess up everything.
I can.
Ask him if he can hear it.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
So, yeah.
Hold on, just checking to see if we get views. Now, just to let you know, I'm going to be able to record all this so we can edit half of it out if we need to.
Okay.
We're on like a 12-second delay. It's weird seeing myself after seeing myself.
Yeah.
Hey, we got two. Is it you?
I'm not on there yet. It should tell you up in the top corner.
All right. I guess we run with it, right? Run with it?
Yeah.
What is going on, everybody, and welcome to Paranormal Occurrence and other weird, brand new show that we're bringing out to you where we talk about paranormal occurrences, any sightings, invasions, all other types of weird stuff that you could possibly think of. This is my co-host, Dylan.
Hello.
And today we figure we just bring to you like a couple stories that we had that got us into the paranormal. So, Dylan, if you'd like to start off, go right ahead.
Oh, man. I got a bunch. So. Sorry about that. So, about a while back, me and one of my buddies, Matt, we'd always go down this street in our hometown, Perry. It was Water Street. Always weird stuff happening all the time. We always go down at night. There's also a graveyard next to it, so I mean, it just adds to it more. But yeah, we were walking down. It was me, buddy Matt, and a buddy Tim, and we ended up walking past an exorcism going on in the Mexican church that's on that street. Really weird.
Okay, so I'm going to cut you off real quick. When you said a Mexican exorcism, okay? Does that mean like we were using the egg and...
No, there was a Mexican church, and we walked by and we heard like screaming and everything. And I leaned in because, curiosity. And I heard Inuli Padre, Inuli Fury. And I'm like, that's a freaking exorcism. So, like, we better get out of here.
That's crazy, man. So what made you realize, like, what brought the thought process on when you saw this was going on? Like, did you see people reacting to it? Did you see...
I didn't see. I just heard like the screaming, you know, all that, and the and then I heard the Latin chant for the start of the exorcism.
Okay, so how about your first paranormal sighting? When was the first time that you actually realized a ghost existed?
Uh, I've been surrounded by it my entire life, so but probably the very first time was my invisible friend. His name was Joshua, who was actually my cousin who died in a house fire. And my mom asked me when I was like 5, 6 maybe. She asked me, was like, "Well, can you describe your friend to me?" So I described him to a T, what my cousin Joshua looked like before he died.
So was she able to give you like a description in pure detail? Like, what made you realize it was your dead cousin?
I didn't realize, like I said, I was young and, kids have invisible friends. And she told me what he looked like that she remembered because he died before I was born. He died in 92. I was born in 93.
Hmm. So I guess what else? What other occurrences you had or have you had to where it made you want to call it also an other weird? Yeah.
A while back, I lived on a farmhouse and we used to play hide and seek in the barn. We weren't supposed to, rules. But we did anyway because children. Well, we went up in the barn at night. We were playing around in the hayloft and it sounded like somebody was coming into the barn from the front door. So we all hid and it sounded like there was like rustling and everything everywhere. Like somebody was walking through the hay. So I peeked over the like loft I was on and I didn't see anything. Just heard that sound.
Hmm.
It literally sounded like somebody walking through hay.
Okay. So what's your beliefs on like? Do you believe in Bigfoot? Do you believe in werewolves, vampires?
Oh yeah. You can't tell me that there aren't creatures in the world that we haven't identified yet or found.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, though. When we look at it, we're discovering new things every day. I mean, they've already connected gigantism to the fact that the ocean is so deep that the cold water causes the creatures of the deep to actually get bigger than they should. But they're
Yeah.
also finding like prehistoric animals that are supposed to be past. So that pretty much will tells me like how does that not mean that the megalodon and like the Loch Ness monster doesn't exist?
Yeah. Really, cat.
Now, you guys, as the viewers, too, feel free to chime in whenever you want. We do accept live comments. We do full stories with guests, whatever you feel like doing. Now, for me, I guess my first real paranormal occurrence actually involved one of our popular hauntings right in our area with the Hinsdale house. We had gone up there back when I was 16, and we did a whole paranormal investigation with a group that was actually leading us through and teaching us the history of the house. As we're walking up the dirt road to go to the Hinsdale house, my buddy and I were running camera, and we actually got live footage of a carriage going up the road. So you not only heard the carriage wheels, but you also saw the horse, you saw the carriage. It was the craziest time that I've ever had.
It's crazy.
This brought me into believing in ghosts and looking at all this stuff. Next thing you know, I'm researching vampires, I'm researching werewolves, the Beast of Bray Road, um, the Adirondack Maneater, the Wendigo, all this stuff, and I'm looking at it, and this kind of made me start thinking, how do we know it's not out there? Like, what's the reason for having, cryptozoologists and parapsychologists and all this other great stuff if it doesn't exist? But with that being said, I guess with St. Patrick's Day rolling up, what is your belief on like the fae folk, leprechauns, fairies, gnomes?
I personally believe in fairies because my aunt on her property, and that's something I'd probably discuss with you sometime in the future, Bobby, for an investigation. But my aunt's property is super haunted. She claims it has a hell gate on it. And next to one of the entrances to the woods that she has, there's this fairy ring. I'm not too familiar with fairies and all that, but
Okay, well, I guess when you say fairy ring, she means like there's a circle of like mushrooms and flowers that makes like a perfect circle, correct?
something like that, I think. She says that she sees fairies there.
Okay, so with my research that I've done into like the fae folk and the leprechauns, they tend to have this connection where there will be a perfect circle on the land. Another connection they have with like Stonehenge or um, the Blarney Stone, they all sit on ley lines. So a ley line, I don't know if you know this, but it's a connecting factor to where it almost seems like limestone and granite will connect to each other and create a friction that also or almost creates like a portal. This brings into Irish folklore. Like if you look at it, they have hagstones. A lot of their connection is to like trees, stones, the roots. If it's all stuff that we look at when you're looking at Irish folklore. One big thing that they used to use is like the hagstone is a stone with a perfect circle in the stone that's created by water. Now they state
So
if
you
you
can
look,
see, like, if you look through it, you can see like supernatural creatures and all that
yes,
stuff,
yeah, you
right?
know exactly what I'm talking about with this. It also connects to like iron, why they hang horseshoes above the doors, why they'll put salt in the door for protection. It's all over the place with supernatural beliefs, but it's one of those things to where most people want to see it to believe that.
Sorry about that.
No, you're good. Dylan is feeling a little hoarse tonight, guys. Just to let you know. So if he kind of cuts out, it's all good. It's just not feeling well. But once again, if you guys feel like you need or want to chime in, have any good stories, feel free to let us know.
Me and my friend Matt we get a lot on Water Street. I mean, we were like drawn to it. We don't know why. We always ended up there, but we just did. And we always saw weird stuff. One of the experiences, there used to be an old tire factory there, and there's these two roads. There's Hope Street, a little section between it, and on the other side is Elm Street. You know, Nightmare on Elm Street. Well, there's this little small road in between. I think it's called Pleasant Lane or something. I, it's got a weird name. I don't even know why you would even name it, but we were walking, and I just happened to look up, and I seen these green balls in the sky. in like a triangular pattern. There was 3 of them. I was like, well, that's weird. At first, I thought it was somebody with a laser pointer just messing around. I was looking for a logical explanation,
You have to cover up whatever you want.
but we decided to ignore it, and we kept moving. But then those balls were following us up until we got to the other side to where Hope Street cuts in, and they just disappeared.
So was that your first experience with an alien encounter?
No, actually. That was my second. My first one it was the 4th of July. It was my sister's birthday. Actually, we were celebrating on the 4th. My sister was born on the 5th. We lived in Perry, so we had a nice view where we lived at of the Letcher State Park, the Gorge, when they were launching fireworks off. Well, then I don't even know what it was. This giant, this unidentified flying object was just hovering above the house. Like so close, Bobby, that if I climbed on the roof, I could touch the bottom of it. And I felt like this wind when it was floating there. I ran to go get a camera to take a picture of it. Came back out. In that 2 seconds it took me to go in and out, it was gone.
Okay, so Katie Marie chimed in. I don't know if you know her, but she said, tell them about the little boy in the girls' room.
Oh, yes. That's my wife.
Oh, hi, Katie. How are you?
In our house, we have upstairs in our daughter's room, there's this little boy that likes to play with the cameras and all that stuff when we had them going. And when they're gone, he gets upset.
So,
Start.
what,
Go ahead.
like you say, when they play with the camera, when he plays with the camera, do you like record this to catch the paranormal activity, or?
It's just it's not one of those cameras. It's just like, I guess, a nanny cam, maybe.
Okay, so it's like a Teddy cam. It's one of those cameras that just watches the kids.
Yeah.
Okay, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So, have you ever done research into the house to actually figure out if a little boy did die there? Or?
No, but when we when we bought the house, I asked specifically the retailer that we were buying it from if the house was haunted.
So you directly came out and said, "Is it haunted?" Like,
Yeah, I was like, "Is it haunted?" She's like, "I think so."
I think so. I see that she's saying it was built in the 1900s. So no research whatsoever on it. Like,
I have not done any research on it.
I feel
No,
like that's something you should do research into, man. Like, if you have a little
probably.
boy that plays in the room,
It comes and goes.
okay. So I guess one other big question I have for you is like, have you ever tried to communicate with him?
I used to do some investigating in the house, and I've caught a bunch of orbs, but I've never like call and response.
So what do you still use for like paranormal investigation? Do you still have any of your tools, or?
I actually don't have any tools. I just use apps on my phone, and I've gotten some impressive evidence doing it at my aunt's house.
Okay, so with the apps, are you using like Ghost Tube? Are you using Necrophonic?
Uh, Ghost Tube. I can't remember the name of all of them off the top of my head, but Ghost Tube is one of them. Uh, it's all apps made from an actual ghost hunting group.
Yeah, I feel like I know what you're talking about. A lot of them I've used. There are a few that I do stand behind. There's a couple that I won't use anymore just because they kind of threw me off.
Right.
I don't like the SLS cam at all. I don't like. I'm not a big fan of Paravox, but I do still use I use Ghost Tube, I use Necrophonic, I use Spirit Talker, Coffin Box. So, what are some paranormal locations that you have done personally as an investigator?
I've actually only gone on one actual investigation when I was in the paranormal group that I used to be in. We went to this place in Penn. There used to be an old gentleman's club. They were converting it into apartments, and that I got some interesting stuff. Like the guy that we were with at the time did have the proper, like all the equipment that you need. He had an Ovilus, sorry. He had an Ovilus. I think he had a spirit box, but I don't remember off the top of my head. We had plenty of cameras. He had K2 meters, all that stuff. And there's actually a funny story with a K2 meter. But we were investigating and using the Ovilus, and we asked, we're like, is there anybody here? Yeah, yes. Okay. Could you tell us who you are? No. Okay. What? And then we lost that spirit and they said, well, what else is here? And then the word demon came over Ovilus. And I was like, did that say demon? We looked at the recent library of it, and yeah, sure as shit, it was demon. And we asked, where's the demon? And it said basement. So we went down to the basement to follow up on that. And the basement actually used to be an embalming room back in when I don't remember what the whole building was. I know it was a gentleman's club on top, embalming room in the bottom, and I don't remember what was in the middle.
So, at one point, there was a whole mortuary in this place
Yeah,
on top of a gentleman's club, which that's
yeah,
got
a
to be
little
the
odd.
craziest story I ever heard.
Yeah, it was odd. But we went down to the basement and we said, where are you? And it sounded like we heard this clanging sound that it literally sounded like somebody grabbed an I-beam and started shaking the crap out of it and banging it against the wall. I was like, holy shit. So everybody jumped back because, it was startling at first, just a loud crash right after we say, where are you? So we go in, and the part where we heard that loud crash was the actual embalming process room, whatever it's called. So we tried doing some call and response. We didn't get anything for a couple hours. We decided to move on. Well, then we went up to the gentleman's club. This is where the story gets funny. I was part of that team. I went up, no phone, nothing. I left everything at base, like you're supposed to. Had the K2 meter with me. We had a line of chairs lined up. We all sat, and I just turned 21. So Daryl was like, "Hey, Dylan over here just turned 21. You want to give him a lap dance?" It's okay. Odd. And then the K2 meter started going off. All right, that's odd. So I stood up and I'm trying to find where it was. I get down to like my lower half and it starts going off. I'm like, I think I have a midget stripper hanging around me. Well, we were doing that for after a few minutes, I lost any more readings. So we stayed up there for another 2 hours doing call and responses. We didn't get anything. Went back down. We did one final push. I had to stay back and watch the cameras. My aunt was in this group, and her and this other girl that went with them. Those two went off by themselves into this one room. It had like one of those bears with the lights on it, like kind of like a REM pod, but a bear.
A boo buddy?
I think so.
It's probably what you're talking about is a boo buddy.
They set it down in the middle. They start doing call and response. I'm watching orbs just everywhere. And that little bear thing went off a few times. And they started asking questions. And then my aunt just started bawling for no reason. Like she was super sad. Like, you know how some people get during investigations.
Mm-hmm.
Empaths, I think. Channelers.
Okay, so does she hold empathic ability? Like, is she just emotional empathic, or is she?
She does spirit writing too.
So like auto writing?
I guess she'll just sit down with a pen and a paper, and then she'll just, start. And then all of a sudden, she's like, and just writing. Afterwards, I can't make out because it's older person.
Okay, so she's actually the second auto writer I've ever heard of then, because I actually met one on a case that I did where it was the same thing. She'd close her eyes, she'd start shaking her head. Next thing you know, she's writing stuff down. I kind of questioned it for a little bit, but then after a minute, like, we were getting direct response, like it was all this. Now, I do see that your wife brought up the Andover house. Did you guys do the Andover house?
We did.
Okay, what did you get? I didn't get a chance to do the Andover house yet, so I'm still looking to do that one.
I think 3 years ago, maybe 4. I could be wrong. They had this paranormal fest where they had mediums, psychics. They had a paranormal investigation, the works. I was like, oh, sweet. Let's go. So we went. We didn't get to see like the mediums or anything, which I was a little upset about, but we made it for the investigation itself. So I had to cough there for a minute. We're all lined up. There's investigators that run the place, plus do investigating themselves. We split off into groups. The one guy asked, "Does anybody done any of this before, and I was like one of the only people to raise their hand. It's like you're with me. Like, okay. So we split up. It was me, Katie, Matt, and a couple random guys. I think there was one more. I don't remember. We went down to the basement for first. Yeah. We took the basement. They went upstairs. The other teams went. One team went upstairs. The other team went to the middle of the house. 5 years ago, she was pregnant with our oldest.
I just saw that in the comments.
Okay. Yeah, she just came out and showed me. I can't see the comments, so. But oh yeah, there you go. Okay, now I see him. But I lost my train. Oh yeah, we were in the basement. Completely killed the power to the house. We started the investigation like 9 o'clock at night, I think it was. So she was pregnant with her oldest. And there used to be a midwife that used to work there who passed away, something. Well, my wife she was having Braxton Hicks because, I mean, it was October and our oldest daughter was born the 13th of October. So she was bent over and she felt like a hand rubbing her back, like a midwife would do.
Yeah.
She's like, all right. Like, who's rubbing my back? I'm like, no one. And then that's when we learned that the midwife was there and passed away.
Literally when we were going in, but I had to turn around and tell her that I didn't leave her house. But she followed me all the way around the house, rubbing my back the whole time through all my breaths.
That.
I have no idea what she just said.
So we were told when we started investigating that she had to turn around and tell the midwife that she didn't need her help. Well, midwife ended up following her through the entire thing, rubbing her back through the entire Braxton Hicks. And we were in the basement. Oh, that's who it was. It was Blaine. I remember the fifth person. Sorry. We were in the basement. We're investigating. We're getting some hits on the K2. That could have just been residual power, electric. Kind of ruled it off until like a couple hours in. But when we started using the K2 about 10:30-ish, we started telling terrible dad jokes.
Oh, Jesus.
And the K2 meter was spiking constantly, like the ghost was laughing. So we're just like, all right, this guy likes terrible dad jokes. Cool. We investigated that, and we went to this one room where there was a guy who he didn't like people being in there, and you could always tell he was in the room. So he had a very distinctive scent of cherry and vanilla cigar. And we walked in there and we started, call and response, and I started smelling the cherry vanilla cigar. I'm like, he's here. How do you know? You guys don't smell that? And then I started getting like the actual like smoke smell. We did call and response there for 45 minutes. And he just didn't want to talk to us anymore. So we moved on. Trying to remember all the rooms that we went into. Because it's also a it's a haunted house, but it's like also a haunted house.
Well, I know it's got like a haunted attraction in it, but I don't know
Yeah.
how to. Are there certain times where they do like actual paranormal investigations for it, or
They haven't done one in, well, they might. I haven't really heard anything about it since 2019, but I really haven't been keeping up date with it. So we went to the middle. We went up to the second floor, first floor technically, and sorry, we didn't get a whole lot of activity on the first floor because there was another group there that basically made them use most of their energy to begin with.
Mhm.
However, there was a spot where all of us set our K2 meters down, and it was like the ghost was dancing on the table. That was the only spot where we're getting hits. Was right on the table. So we did that we investigated there for another 45 minutes, and then we went upstairs where it was dangerous because of the floor. Oh, second floor. Second floor, I don't think we really got anything up there. I mean, we got a couple hits on the K2, but that could have been anything. And we went to the attic, which is where it was dangerous. The attic had the missing floor pieces, and we really didn't get much up there either. We got no hits on anything up there.
Okay, so are there any haunted locations that you have thought about doing? Like, is there any place that you really want to see?
I do, but I won't be able to get into it
Why not?
because the building's condemned.
Which building is it?
It's what the hell's that building called? Down by the park.
I know what one you're talking about.
Well, there's this
It's
building.
part of the Alfred State.
There's this building by the Alfred State campus down here. It's all completely run down, but just walking by it, I've when we just take the trails at the park, I've felt things staring at me, random cold blasts of air
Justin.
on a hot summer day.
Justin.
Yeah, just in between like the end of the buildings. And I've seen things staring at me through the windows. And I've seen a couple things like move, just like quick out of the corner of my eye.
So who cut you off from going in there? Is it the town that runs it, or
It's
is
the
it?
town because it's a danger. And what I heard from my cousin, he went into it and he said that the basement was like it was something out of like a horror movie. It was like oozing some liquid.
Probably black mold?
Oh, yeah.
It's condemned because it's collapsing in on itself.
It's collapsing in on itself. So have you looked at any other popular spots? Like, have you looked at Rolling Hills Asylum or like?
I've looked, but never been.
So a couple I've done, like I've done the Hinsdale House, I've done Iron Island, I done the tour for Eastern State Pen. And I guess okay. So what I'm looking at is, have you talked to your wife about doing another paranormal team? Like,
Oh, she knows I want to do one.
okay, so that being said, yeah, I guess it would be like if you had to pick some popular locations to fit in, if we did decide to start doing this for lives, like what are some locations you would personally like to see as a live show?
Alma Pond.
As a live. So is there a way to connect like Wi-Fi and stuff up there?
No, here's why I would like to do it. It's a complete dead zone. Like nothing gets service. But the weird thing is I was down there fishing with my aunt and uncle, and there's like I said, zero service. Nothing gets service down there. My aunt got a text message. Like her phone went off. Like she had random service.
So we
But
would be able to use like would we be able to take the cameras and stuff, do a full recording?
probably we probably have to do a handheld camera because there's a lot of stuff that gets said down there. Orbs being over the water.
It's
From
cutting
what
out.
I heard, that there's supposedly a train at the bottom of the pond with passengers on it that didn't make it off.
So it's almost like
Rushford Lake would be a good
The
one.
Angola horror site. Do you know the Angola horror site?
No.
There's a spot in Angola where it has an urban legend and a haunting on top of it. So the urban legend is Pigman Road, where they state that like a recent butcher like got fed up with the kids picking on him, so he murdered a bunch of kids and then hung their heads on spikes. That's an urban legend out there. Now, the funny part about that is it sits right next to what's called the Angola horror site, where 265 people were killed in a train accident. The funny part about this is the guy that actually got rich off of the oil well that goes into the oil brake system on trains was supposed to be on that train.
Weird.
Yeah, so J.D. Rockefeller, the guy that made all his money off of brake line brakes, was supposed to be on the Angola train going back to Buffalo.
Another one would be Rushford Lake, because there's a whole ass town that gets submerged in water every
See, now I
year.
did hear about that one. Is that like, have we actually seen pictures of the town underwater, or
I think there's pictures floating around. I haven't seen it myself. I want to, but
I don't know. I guess so. I personally, a few things I would like to do, like with this whole outcome, is eventually I'd like to see lives being done inside haunted locations. So, like, we'll do a sit down of all of us where we're inside Rolling Hills Asylum doing a live, or we're inside, I I don't know, the Lindsay Borden house doing a full live.
what about Gudelberg?
Sure, Gutenberg Cemetery. I'd love to do one there. The last cemetery I did was actually Guernsey, and we talked to the historians about this. We had read the urban legend on Guernsey Hollow to go out there and actually do a paranormal investigation. So when we went up there, we took the REM pods, we took the K2 meters, we took everything that I had on standby ready to go. We go out there, I'm running camera. We sit next to the cross that this little girl's allegedly connected to, and we're doing full reads. And we ended up getting the name Elizabeth. We got full spikes on the REM pod and the K2, and we got a full mist apparition walking past the cross. We contacted the Historical Society of Frewsburg, and they were able to show us in detail the name of a little girl, Elizabeth, who was murdered in the cemetery.
Wow.
It was crazy time. Crazy time.
I'm sure if I talk to my aunt, I can probably get an investigation up at her place.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, we can look at multiple locations at this point. So what's your belief on Ouija boards?
Never touch one.
You won't touch them?
Nope.
And so the funny part about that is I started creating Ouija boards. Now, did you work with us when I worked with Aaron?
Uh, maybe. I don't know.
No, I'm talking about
I-
super tall blonde guy. Kind of got the switch going on.
It's Spirit Halloween.
Yeah.
I think so.
So I got my ordainment for his wedding, and then I took off the ordainment too. So I'm still an ordained minister. I'm just all over the place with it, man. I'm all over the place with it. I absolutely love the paranormal. The paranormal has been like a full passion of mine for probably over 20-something years. So to see that you want to do like a podcast dedicated to just paranormal and weird occurrences has been a fantastic time.
Yeah.
Now, there was supposed to be another guy that joined us tonight. I don't know what happened to him. I will contact him after the show, but eventually there's going to be 3 of us running on the podcast. And then another thing we could do is, if your wife is up to it, we could do an episode where she comes on and tells her experiences on like the Andover house, or I don't know, other occurrences she's had.
So I'm sure she's got some stories.
But this is kind of our whole lineup right now, is to tell stories and to get other people in to tell their stories, to talk occurrences, to talk random phenomenon. I mean, we'll go into like lucid dreaming, we'll go into Bigfoot sightings. Eventually we'll post some videos. We'll jump on and do some like debunking. We'll check everything out just to kind of get the show going.
I got some more stories to share.
Well, I mean, right now we're sitting at 47 minutes, and I know we want to do like an hour, but if you want, we can call it for the night. We can jump into another one. We can keep going. It's up to you, man.
You want to do an hour?
All right, let's do an hour. Give me some stories. Like, give me one of your best stories you got. Have you ever seen a full body apparition? Have you ever?
Yes.
Okay, tell us a story about the full body apparition.
That one's kind of creepy, and it freaked me the truck out. So I was walking by myself through Perry. I always did a lot of night walking, just always relaxing to me. And that's when I see the weird shit. But I was walking by the cemetery, Hope Street Cemetery. And it was like, during the time of year where the veil is thinning. So it was like beginning of October, give or take. And I seen something out of the corner of my left eye when I was walking by the cemetery. So I stop and I look, and I staring at this thing that looks like, it literally, hands down, looked like what you think the Grim Reaper would look like. A fucking bone face, the hood, the robe, the friggin' scythe. I was like, okay. I kept walking. I got past this tree because there's a big old pine tree. Because at first I thought it was just somebody fucking around because it was close to Halloween, Ha ha hee hee.
Trucking, bud. Trucking.
Sorry. But I go past this tree and I look again and it's gone. It just disappeared. And I also heard what sounded like dogs in there too. They had like a howl I've never heard before. It was a type of howl that would like make your spine shiver. Weird.
So, like, do you think that was connected to a black dog or like a hellhound or?
I would believe so, because I mean, I know if you study black dogs, hellhounds, they do guard cemeteries. Black dogs guard cemeteries, but they usually associate a black dog with a hellhound.
Well, I kind of did some research into that too, and it does. Sometimes it shows that a black dog and a hellhound are two different things. Like a hellhound is a carrier to the afterlife, as to where a black dog would be like a death omen.
Yeah. If
So
you
I was
see a
kind of
black
curious about
dog,
that.
either you or someone you know is going to die.
Which is funny because I actually, when we saw our first black dog, the friend that I was with ended up getting extremely sick, and it did almost kill him.
Also, that like that bird thing is also true. Okay, so I know it sounds weird when I say it just like that. You know that little saying that if a bird hits your window, a member of your family is going to die.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, first time that happened, my great grandmother died. She died on Christmas. The second time a bird hit the window, my aunt's ex-husband died. And then, yeah, it was only two. So
But both were associated with a bird hitting a window. Like, do you know what kind of bird it was? Does it have to be a certain bird, or just?
I I didn't see the bird. I just heard it hit the window.
Because I know when my grandfather passed away, like there was this association with a cardinal, and the cardinal became like a big aspect in our family. And my aunt, before she passed away, she would bird watch every day just see if she'd see like that solo cardinal again. You know what I mean?
The thing I know about well, I don't know, but what I associate cardinals with is if you see a cardinal, it means a relative of yours is near you.
Well, that's the weird part because the cardinal ended up not showing up until like our first cardinal. It hit the window just like you said, and then my grandfather passed away, and then probably about 2 weeks after that, this lone cardinal kept flying up to the house, and she would sit down, she would talk to it. Next thing you know, she's bird watching every day, and this cardinal comes back every week.
Yeah, makes sense. Another story that I had was me and my friend Matt walking down Water Street, and there was a sewing mill. Well, it used to be a sewing mill, but it sank down into the little creek bed thing. I'm walking on that side of the road, and I hear something and catch like three little blue orbs in the old sewing mill, just like, if I had to guess, like dancing around. Like they were going in circles,
Mm.
bouncing.
So I guess go a little more into that. What did you believe that was? So like, was that
I didn't investigate it because when I went to go down into it to investigate, they disappeared.
so? Could that be like the aspect of a sprite? Could it be?
No idea. I don't know much about sprites.
Sprites it's another form of fairy, but it's kind of like a smaller pixie style. And
Okay.
they're known for connection to like balls of light. So, but usually when I say balls of light, it's you'll see a ball of light, but it'll have a tail connected to it, and it kind of
Well,
wisps,
these were just just balls.
kind of like witch lights.
Uh, yes,
Okay, I get what you're talking about.
they were kind of like the green orbs I discussed earlier. But
Well, what's your
pink.
aspect on orbs? Like, how do you feel an orb works? How do you pick them up in pictures?
Well, it has a very distinctive. I can tell an orb from dust or a bug, but just I think an orb is just, how do I put this? The beginning part of a spirit trying to show itself before it becomes a full body apparition.
So it's pretty. You see it also as energy compound, then, like it's the energy aspect before the energy aspect.
Yes, it's
What's that
like a
build up?
battery.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like
Okay.
a battery.
So somebody else that kind of looks at it like I do. Now, with the aspect of battery, you see both negative and positive in the same way, correct?
Uh, like you mean like different color orbs?
Yeah. So like my whole connection to the paranormal is based off energy. Like everything is based off positive and a negative, just like a battery or any type of electrical circuit. You can't have a positive energy without a negative energy.
Right.
So it's almost like saying like some of these haunted locations that we look at, you'll always see, oh well, there's this spirit and this spirit, but there's also the bad spirit that comes with it. I feel like the bad spirit has to be connected for that aspect. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. As for that, I mean, usually the negatives show as like a darker color, like a red. Usually red with me.
Well, I guess so. With that, orbs are kind of hard for me because it's kind of a big controversy in the paranormal world. I mean, every investigator that's out there has talked about how orbs could be a speck of dust or a bug. So I
Right.
guess in order for me to actually say an orb is an entity, it would have to show some form of like intelligence. So we did the Hinsdale house once, and just like you see the orbs flying through, and you can kind of tell. But then we had that one orb that kind of flew out, and then it flew at us, and then backed up and flew the other way. That almost seemed like an intelligent entity.
Hmm.
Is that a doggo? I see a doggo. Or is that a cat? That's a cat.
It's a cat. String bomb.
Okay, so what's some topics you'd want to discuss next Friday? Let's say.
I kind of like to hear more people's experiences
So,
and
do you
some
think
more
we should bring our
adventure.
first guest in and have a full discussion, or like?
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, at this time, we are pretty much well approaching that hour. I say we just shut it down and give everybody a good night. We appreciate who did watch and look forward to next Friday with our first guest.
All right.
Right on. All right, bud. We'll see you soon.
See ya.